Welcome to the Birds vs. Boys Game Day Reaction Show, Week 4, and that's 4 wins for the Eagles, undefeated. Who cares about the adversity that they faced? They stormed right through it, and they remain undefeated in a tropical depression. The Phillies are winning. The Eagles have won. This is a great day. It feels good when things go your way. They should try it more often in this city. So, we talked about adversity already. They went down 14-0. Darius Slay gets hurt on the first drive. Jordan Mailata gets hurt on the second offensive series. Issac Seumalu would later go down. DeVonta Smith would go down, but would eventually come back. And Jake Elliott got hit in his plantar leg and was hobbling around like he was 85 years old. So not the best of circumstances. And then you factor in the weather. It was looking like borderline disaster where you're like, all right, this is just that day. Every fan base, not just the Eagles, knows what I mean when I say that day, where just everything goes wrong. And it would have been very funny if it did, because on the show this week, I said, this feels like a scheduled win. So that would have backfired so fast. But they got back into it. What they did, they were running the ball effectively with Miles Sanders. I think that was the best game he's played in quite some time. 125 yards rushing, or 130 yards rushing, and a touchdown, which was fantastic from him. No fumbles. We worry about drops and fumbles with him. It's pouring down, driving rain. He's got no fumbles. The offensive line down 2 guys at one point. Just great in opening up holes. Miles Sanders actually following those holes. You saw a little bit of Trace Sermon, and he did well. And Kenny Gainwell had the touchdown as well. So just following your offensive line, leaning on your strength. It looked a little bit like last year just because it had to be like that, considering how hard it was raining. You couldn't take deep shots down the field. It wasn't like Monday Night Football when you hit Quez Watkins for 53 yards. So it was just like knowing what you needed to get done and refocusing and just having that execution. Again, with the execution where they defer, they score. They get a stop, they get the ball back, they score, and then end of half, and they get the ball to start the second half. It's just like those type of things are what good teams do, and you're seeing the Eagles do like a lot of things that good teams do. There was a 5-minute drive in the fourth quarter where you had to burn all your timeouts as the Jaguars, and they eventually did get the ball back. I think if it weren't driving rain and your quick kicker wasn't hobbling, they probably wouldn't have gone for it, and it would have been 32-21, a 2-possession game with less than 2 minutes and no timeouts. But considering the circumstances, they went for it. And then the defense, again, makes a huge stop. So we can flip over to the defense. That was awesome. I think Trevor Lawrence just fumbled again. Haason Reddick is the best as a Temple guy. I have loved him for quite some time. He's been fantastic. He had multiple strip sacks. On that last one, he did a great job of, he really relies on his speed to get to the quarterback, and you saw that today. But on that one, he was really just driving the tackle back, and then he gets his arm out. He wasn't going to get there with the body, so he just gets his arm out, gets the ball on the ground in the wet conditions, and again, forces that fumble that seals the game, which was perfect because it was his time to shine. Him, Fletcher Cox, you saw some Jordan Davis sightings as well. I think the pressure that they caused was another factor that got the Eagles back in the game. And in the secondary, there were a few breakdowns, and the Jaguars didn't take advantage of all of them. But again, that kind of goes back to the defensive line. On that 4th down, the Eagles secondary lost one of the Jaguars receivers. Trevor Lawrence had him, but he fumbles the football. And, that's partially because of just the pressure that Fletcher Cox caused. So it's great to see, like guys picking each other up, and they needed that today. I didn't think Zach McPherson, and Josiah Scott, I didn't think they played horrible, but there were some like communication breakdowns that you saw out there where it seemed like they lost the guys on that Christian Kirk play. And then there was another play in the first half. But again, how often are they getting reps in practice to be with the ones and stuff like that, like playing with Marcus Epps and playing with Bredberyy and knowing where to be? So I thought they did well enough to win that game, and the defensive line really picked them up and got pressure, which made their job easier. So that was awesome. Good for them. Hopefully Darius Slay isn't seriously injured. He seems to be like fine. He was, chatting on the sideline. He had his helmet on. They showed Mailata as well. Like, hopefully they're both fine. Mailata was trying to warm up and press and get his hands on the practice dummy. So hopefully those guys are fine. But again, way to deal with adversity and get through that if you're the Eagles. And then we mentioned James Bredberyy, the huge interception. Jonathan Gannon, who we've gotten on for about like a year and a half about just like not being committed to blitzing, called up the perfect pressure. It led to the interception. James Bredberyy makes it. So you're seeing a lot of the guys who you brought in this offseason making impactful contributions. So A.J. Brown had 5 receptions for 96 yards. We just talked about the Bredberyy pick. And then just like we talked about Kazir White a few weeks ago, and then Haason Reddick today with the strip sacks and the fumble recoveries. It was awesome. Like they did a great job, and I'm really happy with where this defense is at. The Jaguars scored with 4 minutes left in the first quarter, and they didn't score again until 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So you have that huge gap where the defense just completely shut them down, allowed the offense to get their footing and get them back into that game and take entire control of it. I thought Jalen Hurts was pretty good today, considering the circumstances. Again, everything you kind of have an asterisk around just because of how much it was raining. You saw a few drops, like the Dallas Goedert one right there at the 2-yard line that would have been a first down. But I thought he played really well today. Running after the catch is really just like his specialty. It's like the one thing that Zach Ertz didn't have in his game. So you're happy to see Goddard do that. AJ Brown, I think his most impressive one was the one he dropped where he had a guy hanging over him, grabbing his arms, and he almost came in with that fourth down catch. His hands are strong. But again, he was like your chunk play guy today since you couldn't get down the field. 5 receptions, 96 yards. He, again, was awesome. I really didn't think, the Eagles ended up scoring anyways. But the offensive pass interference thing, A.J. Brown should have scored. Dallas Goedert wasn't really blocking. He was kind of just like out there floating. But again, who cares? They scored anyways. It just takes away the A.J. Brown dad touchdown that he should have had. So hopefully, I think the biggest takeaway from this is, one, facing adversity. Like we said, the Jaguars are a pretty good team, but you can see there's a few pieces left. I'd say like we're 3 or 4 better players better than they are, maybe 4 to 5. So when you're down 3 or 4 due to injury, it starts to even things out. So adversity was the main thing. And then facing injuries for the first time. So Vontae Maddox didn't play today. Slay, Mailata hurt. Seumalu, that was a nasty ankle roll. We'll see if you have those guys again next week, because the Cardinals have sputtered to begin the season. We talked about that. That's kind of just what we expected from them. As they don't have DeAndre Hopkins yet. It's just bad vibes all over the place. But I still think that's like a challenging game early on in your schedule. At least you missed DeAndre Hopkins. But I'll tell you what I'm most excited about for that matchup. They have a retractable roof. And it doesn't hurricane in Phoenix, Arizona, or Glendale, Arizona, or anywhere like that. So it'll be great to just play on excellent field conditions next week, because that was dreadful. Now, it's also a big game because, yes, we are 4-0, which is awesome. But Giants win, they're 3-1. The Cowboys, which I think is surprising to a lot of people, but, without Dak, Cooper Rush has stepped in and played phenomenally, just getting the job done, making the right throws, not getting his team out of the game. So he's been awesome, and they're 3-1 as well. So there's really no leeway. You just got to keep winning. So that's why today was so important, to make that comeback and do it all. I think if every game was decided by the second quarter, we would be the greatest team of all time. We would be fantastic. So that's it for me. I thought that game was awesome. We can keep it short and sweet, and just A+ to a lot of guys. Haason Reddick, Sua Opeta coming in, Jack Driscoll coming in. I think that he gave a solid B. Zach McPherson and Josiah Scott, like these guys give a solid B. And then just the offense, keep it rolling. Miles Sanders, welcome back. Good to see you making contributions. So we'll be back next week. I can't wait to see some sun, some green grass, not people in ponchos. 4-0, undefeated. Phillies are winning. Let's just have good vibes like this all the time.